Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining Crow Canyon Software's webinar on creating solutions on SharePoint using NITRO Forms and Workflows. We'll get right into that. First, I just wanted to mention that in the webinar, if you have questions, there is a question box that you can use to put your questions in, and we'll try and answer them during the webinar, but we also can get to them after that. So without too much delay, let's just jump right into the webinar. Some people are still joining, but we'll go right through this. So we're going to focus today on NITRO Forms and Workflows, and I'll explain that in the webinar in more detail. We're going to have another 2 webinars this month. One is going to be next week, here we go, on November 14th, which is a Wednesday, on the NITRO chatbots and AI, artificial intelligence services that we've introduced into NITRO, into the NITRO Studio. And the one on November 29th, the week after Thanksgiving, will be NITRO portals and the modern UI. And we'll delve into those aspects of the NITRO Studio platform during those webinars. We'll cover them only briefly today. Today's focus is on forms and workflows. I am Scott Restivo, President and CEO of Crow Canyon Software. We have been in business for almost 20 years. We provide a number of services to the Office 365 and SharePoint world. We have business applications in use throughout organizations throughout the world. We have developed NITRO Studio, which is what we're going to focus on today, particularly the forms and workflow aspect of it. And then we also can build custom solutions. These are detailed on our website. We have crowcanyon.com and also nitro.studio. Some business applications, a brief overview. You probably are familiar with some of these. We have the help desk, asset management, customer service, facilities, really quite a wide range of core business applications for use if you want to, if you want to streamline operations, automate processes in your organization through using SharePoint and Office 365. We certainly have some solutions that can do that. Then there's the NITRO Studio. We'll go into that today. And I'm going to skip right over this and get right into, well, not thank you for attending it. I'm going to get right into the demo here, okay? So rather than delay anymore, I'm going to go right into this, and we'll go start with the NITRO Studio. Okay, what I have found in previous webinars, people have said, well, that's a lot of information, and to cover all of NITRO Studio certainly is a very comprehensive amount of information. There's a lot there to cover. So I thought in this one I'd go a little slower and explain sort of from the top down more. What we have done is develop NITRO Studio. NITRO Studio is an application creation platform. We developed it as we developed applications on top of SharePoint and Office 365. First, we started developing web parts and apps and all kinds of tools that would enhance SharePoint, whether it's on premises in 2013 and 2016 and 2019 even now, or whether it's in Office 365. We were building we still do actually, build our applications on top of this set of enhancements to SharePoint and Office 365. We found that SharePoint out of the box had a certain amount of capabilities, but wasn't enough to build the true business applications that customers were asking us for and our clients were asking us for. So we developed a whole set of web parts apps on top of SharePoint, and they really enhance the functionality of it. So then functionality of SharePoint and Office 365. So after some time building our applications on top of it, people came to us and said, well, what about this underlying platform, this layer on top of SharePoint, that could we use that to build our own? How can we use that? Maybe we're interested in that as well as your applications. And that's frequently the case. People will get some applications out of the box from us, and then they'd be interested in NITRO Studio to develop some of their own. So what happens with NITRO Studio, you download it, it gets installed, and this is an installation inside at the root site collection called Crow Canyon Service Request. Of course, it could be whatever you called it, whatever your site root is, but to show that and this admin screen, there are all the sites in that site collection are listed here. So when you install it, you'll get a set of tools that are ready to be activated in individual sites. Now you can activate it right in the root collection, the root site collection, or you can activate it in any of the underlying sites. There's a lot of sites in this particular site collection, Some have been activated, and that's when it turns to manage like this. And some have this option to activate it, so you can go ahead and activate that, and it will load the NITRO Studio for that site. So let's say you're building an application. You're going to create a new site somewhere in your site collection, or a new site collection if you want to do that. NITRO is installed in that site collection. It may be you have to install it, or it's already installed. And then you can come in here and simply come in and select a site and then activate, and it will load the NITRO Studio components into that site. What are the NITRO Studio components? Well, they're listed over here with some more details, as well as on our nitro.studio site, and we'll go into that more today, looking at some of these apps that are included in the NITRO Studio. This screen gives some information about your subscription status, some news, updates. If there was an update, it'd be available here. Tells about some NITRO applications, AI services. Won't go too much into that, but this is the screen that starts you out in NITRO Studio. So I wanted to make that point. I hadn't made that in previous webinars. And this one, I think it's important to point out that you install it, it goes into the site collection, then you can activate it per site according to your needs or requirements. Now, once you have it activated in the site, you know, if I go to manage, it's going to bring this up. So this is the access request system right here. And if I click that, it's going to go over here to access request system. Now we're looking at NITRO Studio in the individual site, okay? Have all these apps available to use within that site to do whatever you need to do to make it into an application. Or if you're using one of our out-of-the-box applications, you can use this screen to modify, say, a form or a workflow or a report or any of the other things here. So it makes it very easy to modify and tweak and customize your application with very little effort, or there's basically no programming, things like that. So here's the forms, workflows, reports, Power Portal, Advanced, all these other things that are going on here inside this site of access request system. What does the site actually look like at this point? Let's go to that site, which I have right here on this tab, and you will see, let me make this full size. This is a site I created this morning. It has the modern UI. We'll go into the modern UI in that November 29th webinar we're going to be doing, and go into that a little bit more. And I just simply put on an access request list with some associated task categories and things like that. So the imagination here is maybe you're creating an access request system. How does NITRO apply to this? How do you take it from a raw site with just a list or whatever and build it into an application, however simple or complex you want that application to be? So we'll play around with this access request system somewhat in this webinar, and putting up the forms and workflows in that. I also want to bring over a more full-fledged realized application in NITRO Studio here called the request management system, with all the bells and whistles kind of clanging and chiming and all that going on here. So this is like more of a full-fledged one with the requests. It has a form already put in place, the NITRO form. It has workflows. It has a lot going on already here. And just as a comparison of what raw NITRO looks like and what more full-fledged, fully realized application looks like. So I'll move that back over, and we'll focus on this access request system. So in this system, we created a list, access request. If we look at a new item in this list, we get kind of every field that is there is listed. Well, it's not very useful or practical or functional, is it? And all these fields here, columns, come from ones that were created in the list setting. So I created all that this morning just to put some fields in there. Actually created from a list template, but you could create it from scratch, and you just start putting in, go to list settings, create a column, create another column, create another column, as many as you need for whatever purpose you want to use this application for. Well, this isn't very exciting, is it, right here? It's just the out-of-the-box form, you could say. If you're in the modern UI, you'd get like a form over here, same idea. It'd just be listing all the fields in there. How do we turn that into a NITRO form? So let's take a look at that. If we go to our NITRO Studio apps for this access request system, this is the site we're in. We now want to create a form that will organize that information in a much better way. So that's what NITRO Forms brings to the table here. And we'll go in here and click that and go to the NITRO form. We're going to create a form on the access request list, the one we just looked at, which had all that long list of fields there, not very attractive, not very functional or useful. So here we have the access request form before it's designed in NITRO Forms Designer. Before we get into designing it, we'll take a look at this Forms Designer and what it has in it. This is our creation as part of NITRO Studio, the Forms Designer, one of the many apps that are in the NITRO Studio. On the left, you have layouts and themes where you can set whether you want to use tabs, sections, how the columns are displayed, buttons, various things that help you control kind of how the form looks. You have form controls here where you can add a tab, just simply drag a tab over, add another tab there. You can add lines, HTML, which is really interesting for making the form look really nice. If you want to do that, you can, we'll go into that in a moment. You have form controls you can drag and drop on here. You have a number of actions you can add on the form, such as press this button and something will happen, such as move it to approval status or assign it to somebody or escalate it. And there's a bunch of advanced functions here that are very useful on this form. We'll go into those in a moment. First, we'll finish looking at the Forms Designer, how the construction of this is. Over on the right, you have the ability to set different properties of the tab or the column that is highlighted. So in this case, we have a tab, we call it default. Maybe want to turn that to general info or something. You can have different numbers of columns. You can have different labels, positions. You can have permissions on this tab to only allow certain people access to it. So we just changed the name of this tab, for example. And we can change the tab we can rename this one also to simply more info. Of course, you could put much more exciting titles on the tabs if you want than those, but this is just a demo. You have complete flexibility there to do that. It's kind of interesting. Then if you wanted to go to sections, I just want to do it as sections instead. It comes up like this. So you can do it like this. And you can also say that sections should only have lines or they should only have nothing there. Just simply different ways of putting making the form look like you want it to look. Now you can do other interesting things, but here, before we start adding fields to this, you could go here and here in the controls and add a line and put like a title up here that says, and this can get even more and more, you can use HTML in here and make it even more fancy. So access form, whatever. So we can make it there, add it bold, put it, bigger font. This will take HTML if you wanted to do HTML here and put a really more interesting heading to it if you wanted. So now we have access form. And then under there, you can start putting your fields in, really a lot of ways to arrange this to come out really nicely, really nice looking form. I'm just doing the simple stuff to make it look like this. And then sometimes that works better when you have sections, so everything's in the same place, like with no lines. I mean, there's all kinds of interesting things you can do to make this form look the way you want. And you have complete customization and control over it. Okay, let's move to the next step and put in some form controls on this. Well, obvious one would be title. If you want to find that, just type in title. If you can spell it right. Title, drag it over, and that's the title of the access form. Maybe you want to know what type of access it is. These are all fields that have been added already to the list settings. So I mean, they exist because they are in the list. If you want to add a new column, you can just come here and create a column right from here. You want to see the list settings of the access, you just come right here and go to list settings. So it makes it very easy to manage this from within this form designer itself. If you had to add a new column, I really should do that column. You could even edit the column itself, type of access change. You could come here and start doing things like saying, here we are in kind of the familiar list settings thing here. It says, okay, maybe we want to make these radio buttons instead. Okay, let's make them radio buttons. And come here and, I think I have to apply. Yeah, see, there it goes. So now we can do it like that, type of access change at, simple stuff you can do. Make it really interesting. Require that this contains information. Well, we should require that it's one of them, right? We're either going to add access, modify, or revoke access. And then if you wanted to get, remove it, you can delete it, you can set permissions on it, you can have validations, set up validations and permissions on that field. So let's keep going and add a few more on here to make it even more interesting. So let's see, title, type of access change. Let's see what else, other fields we want to put on here. Maybe, let's say the category. Okay, let's look up the category. Category, what kind of change is it? Well, put it there, but I want it actually down there, so you can just move these around so easy. And then access to what? What are they accessing to? And then who's making the request, And so we put the requester on, we put on the requester's department, we put on the phone number, the email, all that kind of stuff. So already we've got a simple form going here, don't we? And it's looking pretty good. What if I wanted to go, if I'm happy with that, I can just come in here and publish it, just to show you what's going on here. And this is just the simplest, kind of implementation of this is what we're doing here already. So if I go back to access requests and I go to new item, I might have to reload. Let's see. Then I come here, it should open that form instead of the default one. There we go. So, you take a look at it and say, well, okay, I want to maybe change this, take that line out, move fields around, whatever. But you have a look at it right here, and you can see already that it's starting to take shape, right? So a couple things going on here that we want to do with this. We want to auto fill in the requester information, perhaps. We want to make category and issue and access to drop lists. Right now, they're just going to give the full list of what's ever in that list. Let me explain that a minute. The category is a list here that I created this morning inside the access request site. Access to is another list I created in here, but we want them to cascade off each other. So if I choose an access of database, application database facility, it's not going to show the full list of access to all that right here. We want to limit it to just what's appropriate to that category. That's pretty common, cascaded lookup. So let's go back to the form designer and start to add some of those more advanced capabilities, right? So here we go with this category and issue type. Category and access to, sorry. So let's make that cascading. So we'll go over here to our lookup settings. We'll do a new configuration in lookup settings. We'll make a cascade. We're going to want to cascade the access to, and we're just going to do it on category and do OK. OK, and let's publish this form. Now let's go look at that form again, reload, so it gets the new stuff. Let's see if I did that right. So let's see what happens now with this. Previously, it was loading everything, so let's go here and say, okay, database. Now it's just loading the 3 databases. Of course, you have total flexibility as what you put in these lists. You can put anything. We use this for category and issue type. Some people use it for building and room. Some people use it for account and contact. And you can have multiple layers beyond just 2. So if I go to, say, facility, it's going to boiler room, simple stuff. And already we have a cascaded lookup going. Pretty cool. And we go here and do vehicle. You see, I'm just kind of show you the different ones that you can do here. So there you go. That's one lookup already added into the form. So see how we're starting to evolve and create this form with relative ease. We just have a list called access requests. We're adding on different capabilities and list columns. What kind of request, what kind of access changes it, what do they need access to? In this case, I guess access to delivery van 1. And now let's see who's requesting this. Well, that'd be even good to have on there, wouldn't it? So that's why we have the autofill settings here in our advanced. See, we're in the Forms Designer, the advanced section, this autofill. So we want to autofill from the SharePoint user list, I guess is good. You can also use a custom list if you wanted, or use a profile. So let's see what happens here. So we want to base it on the logged in user, and we want to map the column requester, for example, to the name of the login name or display name. It's up to you. That's one. We want to map the column requester email to the user property of email. We want to map the property of requester department to department. Now, one thing you can do here, oops, not phone department. You see that one there called other property? You can put in particular values that are drawn from whatever system you're using, in other words, if it isn't in this list, you can put it here with other property. It's hard to list all the properties in a database like that. So we give the option, other ones you can add. These are the more common ones: department, email. I think the other one was phone. So let's get the phone in there and do requester phone. And then here you go, phone. So save that, do okay. Logged in user, yes, all looks good. Has a mapping, okay. Let's see if that worked for when I open up the new form. It should already put all the requester information in there based on the logged in user. I'm logged in as some admin account here. Let's go back here, take a look at the, I'm gonna reload this, yep, reload, and do the new item again. And bada bing, look at that. It's got the requester information in here. Me logged in as admin account in the marketing. For some reason, they put me in the marketing department. This phone number. Phone number's right, by the way. Email address is, for this test account, Cocaine 365. So then now we have the cascaded lookup, and we have the requester information in there. See, we're making pretty good progress on this form. And of course, you can add more to this. I have this more info up here, so it seems like something should go there, doesn't it? So let's go cancel this and go back to the Forms Designer. So we looked at lookup settings, we looked at autofill, we looked at different ways we can put forms controls and layout of this on here. So let's go do something else. Let's look at this more info, and maybe we want to change it to related tasks up here, okay? So now we're going to change that to related tasks. We just changed the title of the tab, just like that. And we want to do an associated item on here. We want to put an associated task. In other words, this request could require some tasks to be generated for, it could require some tasks to be generated in order for the access to be granted, okay? So you say, okay, access has been approved. Now we're going to assign this to somebody to actually grant the access. So there will be associated tasks with this, and that's what we set up. So we're going to go here, associated items, and do a new configuration here. And we're going to go through this, and we're going to say associated tasks column. It's going to get information from the list called associated tasks that exists in this same site. In other words, I created a simple task list in this site. Let me switch over to that right now, so you see what I'm talking about. There is an associated task. This is simply, all I did here to do this, go here, add an app called, standard SharePoint stuff here, called tasks, right? That's all I did. And now I want to associate it with the request, right? So here's associated tasks, nothing in it, just a task list. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm associating these two together. So we go to the list associated tasks, which is in that site. And we're going to go to the view summary. The lookup column is related request ID, and the form we're going to use is the associated task form. And there's this one column we're going to put here, related request ID, to make it all work. And then we do OK. Okay, we do OK again. And now we have the associated task able to correlate this request with the actual tasks that are going on for that request. And see how it has new item and these kind of things? Well, if I went back to that configuration, associated item configuration, of course, you can always go back and edit these things or delete them or add new ones. If I come back and look at this, you see right here, it says allow new entry, allow edit, allow delete, allow inline editing, all choices you can make on this. But let's see what happens when we go here and publish this form. So we go here, confirm the publication of the form. And go back to the access request system right here, this one. And let's do a refresh again. And now we have the form with related tasks looking like this with a new item. There are no related tasks. I could add one. Well, I guess I'll go through and create an access request from the beginning to do a little more that, because right now it isn't created, so I'm not going to relate the task anything. I'm more concentrated on the forms design right here. We've got the tabs, we've got the related tasks. You can add more tabs and more related tasks if you want. So let's cancel that and do even more stuff with this. It's looking pretty good, I think, at this point. But I like to have this different, this label. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to highlight this and go to, highlight the tab, sorry, and go to the number of the position. I'm going to put it vertical now. And that just makes the label up on the top and gives me more room to see the actual grid below it. New item shows up because I decided to say allow new item in there. And I could add if I had other lists I wanted associated with this. Frequently in our request management system, we'll have time tracking associated with this. If you wanted to have time tracking, you can have time tracking associated. Any kind of related item, email history is another one that's often related to requests, what emails have gone back and forth. And the same idea applies. You can go to associated item. You have the main list of requests. You have a sub list of tasks or time tracking or email history or whatever, and you could tie them together like this, and it will show all the tasks that are related to this request. And quite interesting way of doing things. So this is just really scratching the surface of what is capable in this system. We have a number of other items down here that are quite interesting. Custom JavaScript, custom CSS. We won't go into that right now, but one is a signature pad. And you could put a signature pad on here where a person could sign it with their finger or stylus or whatever. And that can show up on a mobile device. So that's another option that can go here. I could add a field that's a signature field and put it on there, and the person can sign it. I can do that. Well, let's do that. Why not? So I'll go in here and create another field, signature, let's call it. Could call it whatever you want, but signature, sign here, whatever. And not add to default view. And go OK. And then signature pad settings should have that column in there. Additional. Oh, it's got to be a multiple line of text field. That's right. So let me go back here and change that. So I see I can go make these changes right from the list designer. It's not hard at all. So go in here to signature, the one I just added, and change it to a multiple line of text field. So multiple lines of text, save it. So this is in a very short time, but not really having to know, there's really no coding so far. We're able to create these really interesting forms and modify them and make them look the way we want them to. So let me go here. I got to reload this so that it captures that field. And you can make it however you want. So it depends on what kind of system you want to create. Is it purchasing? Is it some kind of management system, request tracking system? Does it need approvals? All those kind of things. And do we want to, do you want to, what do you need to do, I guess is going on there. Oh, only plain text. Well, it's good if I read the instructions, isn't it? Only plain text multi-lines. Okay, let's go back there and make that a plain text one for there. So none of this fancy enhanced stuff for signature pad, is it? It's got to be a plain text. I should have known that, but oh, here we go. Back to the forms. So there are, let's see what comes up. I gotta do the reload. So I'm doing an access request form here, but you could do any kind of request, and we use this for many, many different kinds of purposes. It could be a very simple request tracking that just needs one approval. You can have multiple levels of approval, serial approval, parallel approval, all kinds of ways you can do this system to make it, just take it off from a form, an InfoPath form, Lotus Notes, some other old legacy program, and then you can make it into this modern UI, modern, mobile-friendly UI, including, as I finally got around to it, a signature pad. See? So now if we publish that, we can see that signature pad show up. So, you know, I mean, we've done a lot of work with this Forms Designer because we build applications, so we know what they need, right? So makes sense. So we build all this into it, and then we want to make it available to anyone who gets the NITRO Studio. Create one site, many sites, many applications. It's really up to you how you want to handle this situation and what kind of forms you want to create or need to create in there. You know, it's easier probably with a pen, but there you go. With a, you know, with your finger on top of a mobile device or whatever. I was just using the mouse. But there you go. You know, we got a signature pad in here. So all of a sudden the access form is taken quite a shape. Let's look at this again. We have the cascaded lookup. We have user info fill. We have a signature pad. We have related tasks, associated tasks going on here. So let me fix that. Apply. Okay. So we have a lot going on here. Now, if we want to add any of the other columns on here, we can. We can come in here and look at the other columns. Any of these columns, who created it, when it was created, and all those can be added on. Created by, created by, all that kind of stuff. And then you maybe want to have another tab here for, we want to add another tab here. Let's put it in the middle. Let's put it here and then move it over. And we could call it assigned to, you know, staff, let's call it assignment, assignment, whatever. So here we go, and we're going to put that in, and then we could put the assigned person. Assigned staff can go here, assigned date, you know, so it can be automatically assigned like that to those people, and then they know that they'll get a notification and all that. Now, there's a lot more I can go into this Forms Designer. We've already been like 30 minutes on it. So, but I can go more and more into more and more fancy features. One thing that I would like to just briefly show, and this will require, you know, this is kind of an exciting option, is you can put a custom action here, define your custom action, and then have it do something like automatically assign it or close it or escalate it or whatever. So let me review, and then I'll jump into the workflows and actions. Let's take a look. We have an access request system. Now, this could be any kind of request management system, as I keep mentioning. And we took it just this, you know, just simply today. I just did this today. You create a request. You create a list, I mean. You create some associated lists, you know, associated tasks, categories, simple stuff. And then you put it all together into this form. And then what you want to do is have it get more and more automated so that it becomes easier and easier to use this system. So it's good to have a form. Well, what's the next step? The next step is making workflows and automating the process that goes on here. So what happens then is when the ticket is submitted, based on maybe the type of change it is, or who the person is, or who the manager of that person is, or whatever, it will go to certain people to be assigned. When the task sits there, when the request sits there and it's been unaddressed for a certain amount of time, our workflows will automatically, after say 1 day before the due date, 1 day after the due date, the day of the due date, whatever, it'll start to send out notifications. All kinds of things can happen with these workflows, which we'll go into here in the remaining part of this webinar. First, I'll go back to the form, back to assignment. I'll dress this up a little bit with, let's put a due date on it. Due date, maybe a status, you know, a few other things that kind of give it more of what it can react to as far as workflows go here. These are just simple fields: assigned staff, date, due date, status. Let's try priority. Put that on there. And now we have it like this. And we can also put any other fields we want on there. Description, maybe description is good. You can put that on the general info, put a description in to, single here, description. Put that in, maybe right here, so the person can describe why they need it. You know, so little things that make it a little bit more useful, but easy to do here. If we don't want the attachment thing here, we can come in and delete it and delete attachments off that altogether. Other ways we can dress up this form. So let's go here and look at any other fields we want to add on here. We could do any other field. How about resolution? Maybe resolution's good. Actually, you don't want me to put work log on here, work log, so people can keep track of the work that's been done. So here we go. Let's publish that, and then we'll work on the custom actions and the workflows. And this is it's a demo, so we don't know exactly what you want on there. But you can see I'm trying to give you a range of the possibilities of what can be constructed in this form and how easy it is to do that. So let's go back here to here and look at the form as it is, and then see what goes on with the workflows and custom actions. Really, it's an amazing group of capabilities in this NITRO Studio. We only covered Forms Designer, and there's like about 12 other apps. If you want to build applications in SharePoint, you want to replace Nintex, and don't spend all the money for Nintex. You want to build applications. This is very cost-effective way to build applications inside Office 365 and SharePoint on premises, including 2013 and 2016 and 2019. See how easy? I mean, already we got all this form going on. We've got the description here now. We have the assignment stuff, related tasks. You know, things are looking good, huh? So we can take it from there. Now, what happens is when a request is submitted, now you have to think about your workflow and how your application will work, right? What do you want to have to happen? Well, maybe we want to notify somebody. Okay. Maybe we want to, that seems like thing, maybe we want to auto reply back to the user. How do we do all those kind of things to make the automation happen? Well, we have two ways of working inside of NITRO Studio. We have the workflows. I'm back to the apps screen here for access requests. We have the workflows and we have the custom actions. In other webinars, I'll go more into the AI services and the bots, as well as the portal and all the some of the other things here. I'm really just scratching the surface of NITRO Studio. I feel like I should be showing you all these other things, but there's only so much time in a webinar, isn't there? That's why I encourage anybody, set up a demo with us one-on-one. Just if you're interested, let's talk. We love doing this. This is what we're excited about. We have fun with this. It's a great, it's just a good thing to do. We can do a one-on-one demo. Hey, I want to do this. People challenge us all the time. They have some kind of form that's really complex. Can it do this? Can it do that? We can show you some of the printouts we can do, some of the forms we can create. People have really taken this to a very interesting level when they get much more design into those forms and start putting colors and all kinds of interesting things in there. So let's talk about workflows before we run out of time here. So I'm doing a workflow. So I said there's workflows and custom actions. The workflows run based on certain triggers that are unrelated to a person pushing a button. A person does not have to push a button for the workflow to run. The workflow will run based on triggers of item is created, item is modified, item is deleted, or on a particular time such as due date on the form itself. Now, the difference is when you have, I'll switch back over to the form for a second, when you have a custom action, you are pressing a button to say, do this thing. And that could be either up here in this area, in the list ribbon, or it can be in the list ribbon, here when you go to items, you can have some functions up here that will apply to either one or more items in the list. Those are custom actions that are user activated versus the workflows, which are more timer based, okay? So let's look at the type of workflow. Let's create a new one. This is the workflow manager, and the workflow name is, come on. When an item's created, we're going to want to auto assign it to somebody, right? Let's auto assign it. So come on, creating a workflow. Oh, look at the forms for a second. I did publish that, didn't I? Apply, I gotta apply that. Okay. Now let's go back here to the workflows. Of course, in a demo, it goes slow. Normally, it's not this slow, but it's I don't know what's loading there. All right, there it goes. Good. So now we'll go to auto assign. That seems a big one. auto assign new item, new request. And it's going to be in the access request system when a new access request comes in, and it's when the item is created here. Items created. Now the conditions can be, so you can set, so first there's a trigger, then there's conditions. And the conditions indicate when it should take place, for every item or only certain items. Well, you could look at it two ways. We could say auto assign it to somebody when the category is database. Okay, category is database, send it to the DB admins, right? So, or we can do that even here. You know, it depends. It depends how you want to do it. Can you do it one place or the other? Let's do it right here. So we're going to go here and say when the category is equal to database, we're going to send an email out. We're going to add this action called email, and the action name is going to be notify, notify staff. Oh, that's a good name right there. We're going to create a mail template in a moment, but it's going to go to whoever the DB admins are. Now, in my case, I don't have a DB admin to do it to. It could be somebody in a field. It could be up here. Let's just assign it to just administrators in general. Let's call it that. And that's going to go there. It would normally be DB admin group or individual email address. It really doesn't matter. From, and we'll make it from that Crow Canyon. Let's go from the Crow Canyon generic one at crowcanyon365.com. That's where it's coming from. Now, what do we want it to say? Well, we have to have a mail template. So we're going to create a mail template. We're going to give it the notify on assignment name. Normal priority, it could be high. It could be, let's start with this. Request so-and-so has been assigned to you. And then we come in here and create this template any way we want using these here. Use these placeholders over here. So you say, hi, we received a request for access to a database. Please work on this. Of course, I'm skipping the step that there would probably be approvals before you actually grant it auto notification. So this auto notification might be notified to approve it, but it's a demo and we can talk about approvals and all that later. I just want to show you stuff before the webinar ends on how we can set up these workflows and actions and get this going. So, then you can put in these, maybe I should have a webinar just on approvals because that's a whole subject in itself. There's many different kinds of approval. Who's going to approve it? The manager, a set person, you can have a list that says these things have to be approved by so-and-so, and the system can tie those two together. All kinds of interesting ways you can make approval work. Single level, multiple level, one person can approve it, multiple people approve it. All that can be built into this system quite easily with our advanced workflows and advanced approval. We're going to assume it's been approved. Received a request for access to please work on this, and it could put in any field we want here about, say, the category, add the body, and maybe we put in access to what they want access to. Add the body and say that because it's a database and access to what, and then we probably want to put in the requesters, who requested it, and just leave it at that. Of course, you can make these as fancy as you want on there, including a link back to the ticket. You put that there. So add the body, and I'll put an item link in here also. So just so the things you can do, item link, go to add the body. So there it is, whatever. So you have there a template. And now what you're doing is you're saying, send this mail template to these people when it's a database, when the category equals database. So I'll just save that. A very simple workflow. Now, what I can also show you here, while we're in here, is all the other possible actions you can have on here. And then, okay, come back here. And then also the custom actions that can go on. So we're going to go here once it's built, putting the workflow in place so that every item that's created will have, that has database, category of database, will notify that administrator group. While that's doing that, I'm going to go over to the form itself again, talk about this custom action that I added here, and go there. So let's reload this, make sure everything's going good here. Go into the Forms Designer here for the access request system. We're going to add in that custom action right here. Here we are. And now what custom action we want to do here? Well, we can create a new custom action right here. We don't have any there, so we're going to create one for the access request list. Same kind of idea, but this is same like that workflow, but this is focused just on the user pressing the button to make it happen. So this could be escalate. Let's call this one escalate. And it can show up on the form, in the display, in the edit control block. Let's put it everywhere and put a confirmation on it. So there we go. When to execute it? Well, it doesn't matter when to execute it, but you can make it so that not everyone has rights to push that button. And what actions to execute, we're going to do whatever it takes to escalate this request. And the actions could be something like update the list item. In this case, we're going to do update list item, and we're going to say set priority to high. We're going to set the priority to high here, and we're going to go here and on the NITRO form, on this form access request, we're going to put in the ability to, on the current item, update the priority to high. So here, we're going to go here and go to priority, and we're going to put in high. Very simple, priority high. Okay, so I want to do there. We can update that, and we can also go here and do another action on that same thing of reassign. We could reassign it to somebody if we wanted to do that also. So add another column map and say we're going to set it to high and change the assigned staff to Pavan. How's that sound? Okay, so there we have, when somebody pushes the button for escalate, it's going to do these two things: set the priority to high and assign the staff to somebody else. We can also have it send an email out to the manager or something like that, or back to the requester, that it's been there. Again, there's default mail templates and whatever you can set up to do that. But let's just save that right now. And now we have an escalate button on here, escalate action. So if we go back to the forms and reload this custom actions, we'll see that there is an escalate here. And then I want to change the name of the title to escalate me. I'm going to apply that. So now the button has escalate me on it, and we are going to publish this form. Okay. So we've taken the form from very simple SharePoint list item that lists all the fields and kind of this long list of not really usefulness, to having a form that has a tremendous amount of capability, and we've only just begun to do what we can on it, or what's needed for your access request or whatever kind of system you're creating to work. Now the button only shows up when on display mode, and that's why it's not showing up right now. So let's create one here. Title, access needed to SQL database. I want to add and select the category of database and SQL, and won't bother to put a description in or signature or anything like that. So then we're going to save it, and now we have an item in here. And when I open up this item, of course there'll be auto reply, auto assignment, auto notification, all those things going on. And if I'm managing this, I can go escalate this and change the priority, which is now normal, and who it's assigned to. I can go here and escalate this item just by simply clicking the button there. Are you sure you want to escalate it? That's a confirmation message. And then it's going to set the priority to high. Set priority to high. Okay, good. Okay, sounds good. Close. And then if we close and reopen this, the priorities here should be set to high. Yeah, high. There we go. Good. So we're just showing you a lot of the different capabilities that can be done. Now, this Escalate Me also shows up in the ribbon. Escalate is now here. I got to highlight the item, but once I do, Escalate's there. It also shows up in the edit control block here, Escalate. So you can do all kinds of interesting actions that take place to guide this through and automate the process. Now, I know I've covered a lot, and I probably didn't adhere to my idea that I wasn't going to overload people, but there's just so much in this Forms Designer and workflows, and we've only really seen some of it, and I'm so excited. I want to show everybody what it can do, the amazing range of capabilities that are available. Again, and we're getting near the end of this webinar. I'm going to leave some time for questions or some time for people to maybe catch their breath a little. But the point here is this NITRO Studio can do so much to help you use SharePoint and Office 365 in very, very useful, practical ways. We can replace InfoPath Forms, Lotus Notes, Access, any legacy system. This all works very well on the mobile device. We have not even gone into portals in the modern UI. We haven't gone into reporting, printing out items using the other apps that are in the NITRO Studio. You know, we covered forms pretty much, barely covered workflows. The reporting we didn't go into. The portal will be on November 29th. Advanced approvals is here. Like I say, maybe I should have a webinar just on the approval section. We have these lookups, the conditional formatting, custom actions, email managers, email synchronization, everything you need really to make an application work. Easy to understand. We have manuals. We have our guidance here. We want to really make SharePoint Office 365 as useful as possible to do really core business applications or to provide functionality. And a lot of what we get, I mean, here I'm going to hit on Nintex a little. Nintex and those other ones, very expensive. We're not that expensive at all. It's like $2 per user per month, and then if up to 500. So if you had 100 people, it's like the minimum price is $249. It's like around a little less than $3,000 a year for your full farm, your full tenancy. As many sites as you want, as many users as you want, as many workflows as you want, as many forms as you want. $3K a year. It's like nothing. And then if you go over like larger amounts of people, we get discounts. I think somebody was just in the 4,500 user range, and they're like 50 cents a user per month. So I mean, we'll be reasonable, make this program work for you, and hopefully get the most out of it that you can. Please contact us with sales@crocan.com. Or we also have a Twitter. We're on Twitter. We have a blog. We have websites. We'd be glad to talk to you more about what can be done with NITRO Studio, how it can apply to your particular situation, how we can help you be a SharePoint Office 365 star in your organization and whip off these applications like nothing, just like that form, the workflows, make it all work together and have a very successful implementation, not just of one application, but of many. Replace InfoPath, replace other legacy programs and make this all work well for you. So I want to thank everyone for attending this webinar. I don't see any questions that came up yet, but if you have questions, just contact us after this webinar. We're glad to help you out. And I hope this has been useful, and I hope you'll take time to attend some of our other webinars coming up. I'll bring that slide up again so you can see the ones coming up here. There's the chatbots next Wednesday, and then portals and modern UI on the week after Thanksgiving on the 29th. And stay in touch with us. I think you have our information, our phone number, website, Twitter, on Twitter, blogs, and all that. Thank you again for attending, and I hope it's been useful for you, and we really hope to hear from you and talk to you more about what we can do for you with our NITRO Studio. Oh wait, there is a question about integrating with legacy databases. No problem, we do that all the time. We do that. Legacy databases is not a problem. We connect, you can hear me, right? We connect with any kind of database out there, financial, ERP, CRM, equipment tracking, any kind of database out there that's needed, we can integrate easily with the NITRO Studio. Can pull information in from a database or write information out. For instance, we have a member, a large church that uses our system to do membership, manage membership. So they put in the membership ID or the email address of the member when the person calls, and that's able to go out to their member database and bring in the information, just like I did this requester info here, you'd have, where is it, the form here in the requester, info being filled in automatically. Well, when you type in a number of the member's ID or the member's email address, it would fill that in by reading it from the database. And it could do the vice versa, which is you say, oh, do you change your name, you change your address, you change whatever, and then it could update the database by pushing it out back to the database. And the same thing with equipment, assets, any kind of database, ERP, we do a lot with financial. When we have a purchase orders, purchasing system, it will say, okay, purchase been approved, send it over to the accounting department, and they will get the information needed to create a PO or whatever, or run a check for that for purchasing. Or if you're ordering stuff, somebody has to go order it, right? Procurement. So it sends a notice that the purchase has been approved. So, go order it. In fact, one interesting thing we've done lately is an Amazon Prime request management system. So everything gets, they make the request and it gets channeled to the Amazon Prime officer or whatever they call it. Kind of a new position in the corporate world, I guess, the Amazon Prime officer or something. So there's all kinds of interesting ways we can use this system, this forms, to interact with databases and take away. And again, I want to point out about the mobile capabilities of it too. So someone can be on the field, make a purchase, or want information on a member or whatever, and they can get it from interacting with our system on the mobile device. So hope that answers. Oh, here's another question. Oh, hi, Bill. Okay, Bill. Okay, we'll talk to you. Yeah, we'll talk to you after. Okay, sounds good. And David, I recognize you, David, from New Hampshire, right? Yeah. So good to hear you and see you back online there. Hopefully you get in touch with us, and maybe we'll pick things up from there. I always like the one-on-one demos better because we have a conversation. These webinars are like I'm talking and somebody's listening, right? So it's never quite that interactive conversation, but certainly get in touch and we'll be able to have that and explain more, delve into the particular details of some question you have about the aspect of the form, all right? Form aspects of forms or workflows or whatever. Okay, we'll have a recording available. And we'll have the other webinars coming up, but I hope to hear from you guys, and see what else we can do with this, what we can do to help you out with NITRO Studio and our out-of-the-box applications. Okay, have a good day. Thank you for attending. Okay, bye.